What's there to negotiate? You know, what's there left to negotiate? We've got our red lines. If they weren't prepared to, grant us our red lines, which, by the way, merely require us to get our sovereignty back, we should have walked out of the room. Boris said we'd leave on the 30th of June if they wouldn't give us what we want. He didn't. He then said the end of July, he didn't walk. Then he said the 15th of October. They still haven't given us what we want. And we're still talking to them. I'm sick of talking. Where's the bright future that Brexit offers us? We don't need them. We voted to leave because we think there's a brighter future outside the European Union. We don't want to stay in there, hanging on to their flipping coattails, hoping that they'll grant us some modicum degree, some sort of minuscule degree of sovereignty. I want out.
Welcome to Unlocked, the channel that's the home of common sense and speaks Britain's language.
A lot of these moaning Remainers in the kind of liberal media, they really cannot get their heads around the fact that the woman who cleans their lovely apartment in West London had the same power as them on referendum day to decide the future of this country.
Boris Johnson should have stuck to his original timetable. Originally, he said, if we haven't got an agreement, or if an agreement is not really in sight by the end of June, that'll be it. Now, if only he'd stuck to that, my belief is that we would now have the trade deal. Because the one characteristic that has dominated these negotiations is that the EU just doesn't get it. They don't get that what they're now dealing with is a completely sovereign state, in exactly the same way that they have to deal with, say, Canada. Now, they're not dealing with a semi-detached member of the European Union, yet they act throughout as if they are.
I think there's huge opportunity, and I'm just waiting for the day when we can say, at last, we are a free, independent, sovereign country. At last, we can make our own mind up. At last, we can have those jobs and that natural resource that is properly ours. That is what the British people want. Control of our borders, control of our laws, control of our fish. Surely it's not asking for too much. And this mad idea that all these clever Romanians have, that the fifth or sixth largest economy in the world, and one of the most important ancient democracies that has always been able to modernize and improve, is no longer capable of self-government. I and my colleagues wish to prove them wrong. We are mightily capable of self-government. We are capable of global leadership, and it's been the EU that's been holding us back.
You know, I think we all hoped deep down, didn't we, that economic reality would win out in the end, and that the EU wouldn't cut off its nose to spite its face and act instead in the interests of all 27 members by agreeing to a mutually beneficial deal with its most important ally. But listen, we all knew that that wouldn't happen unless we have the courage to actually walk away from that table and send a strong message that, to business has to start preparing, because even if there is a mutually beneficial deal, leaving the EU single market and customs union means that businesses have to change. And I think it's really important that the Prime Minister trumpets this loud and proud. And if the EU wants to act like a protectionist racket, well, crack on with it, mate, because we're not having anything to do with it anymore, are we?
Throughout the whole of the referendum campaign, people were cornering me and putting me in boxes because of the color of my skin. And they come to me and say, but you're associated with these people. They're all racist. They're all xenophobes, right? How can you do this? You're letting your side down. And I was like, well, first of all, my side is Great Britain. I'm not letting it down. I'm fighting for it. But secondly, these people aren't racists and they're not xenophobic. I actually fought for more immigration, and most people didn't want to hear it because as soon as I mentioned the word, they shut down. My argument was, look, we need more immigration because as a school teacher, I found that we couldn't recruit any teachers in the UK. We had a really hard time getting teachers from Australia. And I've noticed, we need more nurses from Canada and doctors from India and all these things. And it's difficult because the system that we have for immigration is discriminatory in that if you're from the EU, welcome aboard, it's all good. But if you're not, no, the door's closed. And to me, that's racist and wrong.
We, the great British people, are the biggest spenders in Europe. We spend more. We have more credit card debt. We spend more money with them. What does a business do if it's got a good customer? What does a business do? You think to yourself, I've been in business. I had one customer that would give me a lot of business. What did I do? I made sure he got everything he needed and made sure he got it on time. And if we couldn't deliver it, I went out in my car and I delivered it because I wanted him to want me. I didn't want him to find someone else. And that's the position we're in with the European Union. The European Union need us.
Coastal communities are waiting in the aisles to know that they've got a future. There's none of this, oh, this might happen. They try and confuse us with, oh, we will be taken back our territorial waters. It's just, and a lot of the general public actually believes that. They think once we leave the EU and we take our waters back, that's it, done. We can rebuild. Well, it's not like that. Until we take back full control, and I can't stress it enough, it is the quota. 54% of quota is on flagships. It has to come back to this country for us ever to rebuild our coastal communities.
Boris Johnson, with or without Dominic Cummings, knows that if it is seen that he is to betray Brexit, then he really is finished. COVID has thrown things into the air. A lot of people who voted for him are already upset about lockdown measures. But the one thing they hold on to is that he will deliver some kind of a reasonable Brexit. It won't be the clean Brexit we want, but it could be a sufficiently good enough break from the EU that we're happy. He's still got a chance, which is why this programme and all of those people who are watching must keep up the pressure. He's not just doing this on his own. And if he thinks that the public will, the red wall voters and everyone else will be furious with him, we know he's a populist, we know he's an opportunist, and we know he doesn't like upsetting too many people. So let's remind him how upset we'll be.
Britain is leading the way. We're pioneering something and saying to the world and saying to our friends in continental Europe, you can do this. Don't be scared. You can get your country's freedom. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In the European Parliament, for those who don't know, they sit everybody within groups in a block going around a hemicycle from, let's say, the very far left all the way around to the very far right. And it's sort of every shade in the middle. And we found ourselves sitting, we weren't part of a group, but behind the Eurosceptic bloc. And the speeches that were made about Brexit in support of our efforts and that camaraderie that we experienced was truly excellent. But those pictures and those speeches are never broadcast and people don't get to see them. So I think people don't actually realise that there is a consolidated and cooperative movement already existing in the European Parliament. Yes, we weren't formally a part of it, but we did have strong allies there. You know, we've set that agenda, and I think it's only right that we help those following in our footsteps to do the same.
And I feel that, you know, that we do have some people left over in the European Parliament of various different countries. Some of them are anti-Euro, some are anti-Schengen, and they have varying different degrees of Euroscepticism. I think that they themselves may well reach the point whereby they will consistently be ignored, there won't be any reform, and their only conclusion will be they must leave the European Union as well.
But you are our example. You have to make Brexit a success. If Brexit will succeed, then other countries will follow. The people are scared in the Netherlands because of the message, and you have to show them that it's not the right message. And if you do that, we will join you afterwards.
You're not alone, and you have many brothers and sisters across Europe. And I was glad to be with you to celebrate Brexit. And don't worry, we will still cooperate together, and see you soon.
When I was a kid, you couldn't criticize or say anything bad about the Soviet Union. Now you can't say anything bad about the EU. My grandparents did not defend my country's independence just to give it away to under Brussels. And I'm very proud of you. And you guys have national pride, and that is one of the most precious things you can pass on to the next generations.
Most of the German media, I would say 90%, except for some odd, outside media outlets, were very, very much on the Remain side, and they weren't actually reporting or telling the story of Brexit at all. It was impossible for normal Germans to really understand what was happening. They were not able to follow any of the more open debates in Britain. Much of the disdain which was poured upon Brexiteers in Germany by the press was really not directed at Britain and not directed at you lot, at the Brexiteers. It was actually directed at the German electorate. It was a warning to the Germans saying, don't do what the British have done. Don't even think of actually questioning the EU. So it was actually a reaction of fear to Eurosceptics within our own country. And I found that deeply unfair. And I thought somebody has to react to it, and somebody has to tell the story of Brexit and show, what wonderful debates were actually taking place in Britain, and how much this was an expression of a wish for democracy and freedom.
Citizens don't have any say in the political dialogue. Look at what happened with Brexit. We voted clearly in 2016 to leave. I voted to leave. Many people voted to leave. It's 2020 by my count, and it still looks like Boris has some tricks up his sleeve and we're going to get stuffed. You get to a point of marginal returns where the people are going to get fed up with politicians lying.
There are these supranational entities that are trying to establish control, and that nations need to be very aware of and very concerned about this. So my eyes at least are open to the fact that there are entities that want people to be, their governments, I should say, to become less accountable to their people so that they can call the shots. And so whether it's a European Union or then a greater group that then wants to have the European Union as one of its vassal states or whatever, that's something we all need to be very concerned about right now, because I think that the purpose of even all of this woke stuff ties into that there are entities who know that a weakened Western hegemony turns into an opening for such a thing. And this information is out there. If those of you who haven't heard of the Great Reset are encouraged to look it up. This is a plan that's been laid for a long time. It's worth looking into.
And you'll find that there are loads and loads of books being written that all have titles like, let's have a little bit less democracy. And basically what they are saying is that, ideally we want a world where experts and judges decide what's in our best interest. Because people like you and me are a little bit too stupid to understand the complexities of the world. Simpletons like myself and ordinary people cannot make up their mind and come to good decisions. So from their point of view, the kind of democracy they like is a very elitist, oligarchical form of democracy, where essentially you have a bunch of experts and judges deciding, what should be done.
Boris seems prepared to trade away a lot of our interests. It seems to me he hasn't recognised that the EU is a political construct that is determined to preserve its political order and to demonstrate to all its other members who might think about wanting to leave the EU that it's not a good idea, by essentially punishing Britain by imposing on it certain terms which it's not going to find easy to cope with.
I want to say thank you, because if it hadn't been for you, if it hadn't been for Brexit, I think many of us wouldn't even be here. I don't know if we would be here. I think, the UK with Brexit really put history in motion. There was this feeling that, okay, yes, the EU isn't working, but it's just bound, this is the world we're stuck with forever. And you proved that anything is possible. There always is an alternative. And so, my message would be, don't give up now. You're so close to doing a clean break, which is what you need. And don't give up now, because you've already made history and you're so close to really changing history, for the best, for all of Europe.
Loads more to come. Look, if you like what you've seen today, it's really, really important. Share it, subscribe, knock it around your mates, throw us comments. We're the new kids on the block. We want to push back against the mainstream media narrative. You've been watching Unlocked. I've been Martin Daubney. You've been...
Belinda DeLisi. It's so lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you for watching Unlocked, and we'll see you again next time.